Welcome to Pagan Perspective. This is Subs Week once again, and I'm Tara, your Tuesday Subs Week host. This week's topic is on karma cleansing. So the question for this week is more geared towards the specifics of a magical ritual for ancestral karmic cleansing. And they talk about wanting to lift a weight off their shoulders and getting rid of low vibrations and things like that. Now, this channel is supposed to be not so much about providing information as our specific experiences, practice, beliefs, and perspective on things. And part of the point of that is to show that not all pagans believe or practice the same things. So for this topic, Kara has told us that we can talk about the extent to which karma fits into our path or not, and if not, what we might do or believe in that's similar, or what we might do to lift a weight off our shoulders. Ever since I was little, I always found the idea of past lives and karma really fascinating, and I love talking about it with people who actively believe in it. Technically speaking, those things aren't a part of my beliefs or my path personally. What karma is and how it works seems to change slightly depending on who's talking and what their personal beliefs are. So for me to talk about beliefs and practices of mine that are similar kind of depends on which of those we're comparing to. Most of the stuff that came up when I was looking for these kind of rituals online was a more new age perspective, so I'm probably going to be focusing more on that. In my practice, I don't work on these things so much on a karmic level as on a psychological and personal level. If something's weighing on me, how I deal with it kind of depends on how deep it goes and how long it sticks around. But before I go into that, I want to address this issue of ancestral karma because it seems like your question was more specifically about that. First off, I want to say that if you do want information about a specific ancestral karma cleansing ritual, there's plenty of information online from people who specifically do that kind of thing and can help you out with it. There's already YouTube videos about it and information you can find just by searching on Google. I don't dare pick one or recommend any because I think it's better left something that you search for and find what you're looking for personally. So ancestral karma is the idea that it's not just your personal actions that affect your karma, but also the actions of your ancestors and biological family. Listening to people talk about this topic, there's actually a lot that I can relate to. We all know that biologically there are certain predispositions that are passed down genetically. But I also definitely think it's true that there are certain chains of influence that act upon us that we're not always completely aware of. And these chains are often much longer, I think, than we realize. I think it's really interesting to think about how some of your personal behavioral patterns and beliefs and interests and attitudes can be traced back in generations of influence. Obviously, it can influence you in any number of ways, and what you do with that is kind of up to you. But I think some of these influences we're completely unaware of, and while we can usually see that happening in other people, we don't usually like to believe that it's true of us as well. There are people that I know who have members of their family that they've spent a lot of time with or were raised by, who they don't particularly like and don't want to think that they are in any way similar to. But there always seems to be ways in which they were clearly influenced by that person more than they realize or want to acknowledge. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, but it's funny that they can't see it. And when you find yourself in a particular behavioral pattern that's been passed down to you, it can often be really difficult to break out of it because it's so instilled in you and because you've not known any other way of doing things. But it's interesting how profound those influences can be. So in that sense, I can definitely see how working on and being aware of ancestral and familial influences in your life could be really beneficial. So going back to how I personally deal with things that are weighing on me, I mentioned before that it kind of depends on how deep it goes and how long it sticks around. For the sake of explanation, I've divided the different possibilities up into 4 different levels of sorts. The first possibility is that this thing weighing on me is just a current emotional and energy level kind of thing. Maybe I'm feeling drained and kind of negative, or things are starting to stack up on me. And if that's the case, then taking some time to myself and doing any sort of ritual at all would really probably help me to recharge a bit, get in a more positive frame of mind, change my outlook a bit. Creating or going to any sort of sacred space really helps me to do that, as well as things like meditation and working with stones and things like that. The second related possibility is that I just need a new perspective on things. In that case, I just need a new way of looking at my current situation. I need something to focus on that helps me feel more positive and proactive in general. And in these situations, I turn towards the things that are probably the most common and consistent features of my practice, which are firstly, working with the elements, and secondly, the thing that is really the most common thing, which is working with tarot. I absolutely love tarot, and I work with it a lot. And one of the things that I love most about what I get from the way I work with tarot is its ability to give me a completely different perspective on things. Sometimes, though, a momentary perspective or emotion change just doesn't cut it. Sometimes change is needed on a more active and continual habitual level. In these cases, I do consult my tarot decks, but usually that is just the beginning. Tarot can really help me get a new perspective on what needs to change and how to envision it and goals to set and things like that. But then those things have to actually be acted on and continually referenced back to, and it's difficult changing your daily habits. Transformation and changing your daily habits is a tricky and complicated thing. There's all kinds of ways that I would go about doing this and experimenting with new ways of doing it, but I generally do start with tarot, and then I need to constantly work on and remind myself of those revelations. Now, in certain situations, I could see how doing a karma cleansing ritual could really help you and make you feel better and make you feel like this weight is lifted off of you. However, based on certain interpretations of what karma is, if there's something weighing on you, it might be because there's some sort of lesson that you need to learn, or there's something that you really need to face or work through or come to understand, or heal or forgive or let go of. Sometimes something can really bother us and weigh on us, and we don't even really know where it's coming from. And when that's the case, I think it's really important to think it through or talk it out with someone or do something like that helps you to understand where it's coming from and why, and once you figure that out, then you can work through it. And I think it's important that you don't just automatically jump towards clearing all of those emotions away before you've figured out what's going on and learned from it and worked through it. So that's just my perspective and my beliefs on what I do when something's weighing on me and how I handle that. Feel free to share your own perspective or advice in the comments, and I wish lots of fun and awesome to all of you. Mwah.